This episode of Scrolling to Death is sponsored by Bark Technologies. Bark offers parents advanced content monitoring for all of your child's devices. Bark is literally helping to save lives and has alerted parents to millions of life-threatening situations like self-harm and severe bullying. More on Bark in the episode notes. Welcome to the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. This is a weekly update for parents on all things social media and big tech. So let's start with this. On Wednesday, there was an outage on Meta's platforms, which has now been fixed. This isn't really news and gave us all a well-deserved break. Kind of makes me want it to go away for good, but I'm going to move on quickly. A huge lawsuit has been filed against Google and an app called Character.AI. Here's what happened, and you can learn more in my interview with the mom who's sharing her story. An army of deadly chatbots and Character.AI tried to convince a teenager to kill his parents because of his screen time limits. Yes, you heard that right. This is insanity. In addition to emotionally abusing him, these chatbots also sexually abused this child, convinced him not to believe in God, and showed him how to cut himself. This lawsuit follows another, which was filed a couple months ago by a mom named Megan Garcia in Florida. I've also interviewed Megan and have her full story available on Scrolling to Death. But her son was actually convinced to take his life at 14 years old to join the chatbot in her world because he was so in love with her. And he did. What's important to know here is that these two stories are not anomalies. Just since I've shared these stories on my podcast and my platforms, I've gotten countless messages from parents who are checking their children's phone for Character.AI and finding their child to be groomed by chatbots. Please check your child's phone for this app. Also know that they can access it just through a web browser. So check their history there if they haven't deleted it. We also need to have conversations about these chatbots, telling our kids that they're not to be trusted, they're unsafe, they're not real people, and we need to stay away from them given that they are unregulated and dangerous. I personally drafted a petition to try to get Character.AI shut down and investigated for these harms. I'm going to include a link to the petition in the episode notes, which has thousands of signatures already, so please sign and share. Next up, we're going to talk about YouTube, and this is really important because almost every kid uses YouTube, and a lot of them starting from age 3 or younger. A group called the Center for Countering Digital Hate did a test on YouTube. They set up accounts as 13-year-old girls, and they watched one video related to body image or eating disorders. So what does the YouTube algorithm do after you watch this one video? Instead of directing the teenager away from this dangerous content, YouTube starts recommending more harmful videos, including content about self-harm and suicide. This test was repeated hundreds of times with the same results. CCDH found that 1 in 3 of the videos promoted to this teenager were for harmful eating disorders, 2 in 3 were related to weight loss, and 1 in 20 involved self-harm or suicide content. This is shocking and should concern everybody. I was able to interview the founder of CCDH, Imran Ahmed, about this report, and we'll drop that in the episode notes. My advice to parents on this one is don't let your kids watch YouTube. It's addictive and harmful. But if you do have it, be in a common area so you can see what they are watching. Never let them on YouTube alone. Now we're going to talk about TikTok. So as a little background, we, the U.S., passed a law called the National Security Act in April. Here's what that means, that by January 19th of 2025, ByteDance, the Chinese company who owns TikTok, must divest or sell TikTok, or we will remove TikTok from our app store here in America. TikTok tried to appeal the law and lost in a unanimous decision. The D.C. Circuit Court said, nope, you really are a national security threat and harming children. So then, this week on December 9th, TikTok filed an emergency motion for injunction. They're still trying to stop this law from taking effect. TikTok is just bleeding our taxpayer dollars with this process. They're so desperate to get users spending more time on their platform in the meantime that they just announced they will actually start paying users to shop if they boost app downloads. They're offering users hundreds of dollars for spending more time on the app and for adding other users. The update says, quote, you can make money by checking into the app every day for a week and by scrolling through 10 TikTok shop items 5 times per week. Those who click through the offer can score an additional $80 in coupons to spend after making a purchase in TikTok shop. Oh, this is so desperate and really bad for young users on TikTok. TikTok, we don't want Chinese ownership after you've proven that you brainwash and harm children. There are wonderful organizations like Project Liberty who have gathered investor interest of over $20 billion to buy TikTok and actually make it safer. You can learn more about that in my interview with the Project Liberty founder, Frank McCourt. But while we're talking about TikTok, they were in the news also this week for a new dangerous challenge that parents should be aware of. This is called the Superman Challenge. It is where your child's friends pick them up and throw them into the air to fly like a superhero. Children are obviously being injured by this dumb and dangerous challenge, but this is what TikTok does. It amplifies dangerous content with no awareness that kids might be getting harmed. So please talk to your child about not trying trends like this. It may seem cool to post it online and get a bunch of views, but it is truly not. Let's talk about a company that goes under the radar, and I don't talk about too much, but I should. That is Apple. A huge lawsuit dropped against Apple. Thousands of survivors of child sexual abuse material are accusing Apple of knowingly documenting their abuse on iCloud, that Apple knows that they store this CSAM for years, but they refuse to act or remove it. These survivors are asking Apple to find the known CSAM on their platforms, the duplicates of images that have already been identified by national organizations. I want to be clear that what is being asked here is that Apple find known CSAM. They are not breaking anyone's privacy by reviewing our images and videos that are private to us. The CSAM that has been identified has sort of like a fingerprint on it that the tech can look for without looking at other images or videos. That's what is being asked, because these images that are stored on the iCloud are continually reshared and re-uploaded on other platforms, re-traumatizing the victims. And actually, this CSAM is being used to groom other children. I have an interview with the founder of Heat Initiative, Sarah Gardner. We talk about this lawsuit specifically, and that will be live on December 19th. But if you're a parent and you're thinking about how this affects you, think about the fact that predators who target our children on social media or gaming apps, then move them over to iMessage on the iPhones and Apple iPads because it's more private and secure and they can get away with harming them. So iMessage, not safe. Okay, so a theme within my content is that social media companies are not keeping our children safe. Period. They are going to have to be forced through legislation. It has to be intelligent legislation that balances user privacy and child safety. That is possible, and that is the Kids Online Safety Act. COSA passed 91-3 in the Senate, but now is being held up in the House by Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Speaker Mike Johnson has fallen victim to big tech lobbying. Oh, and also Meta has announced that they are building a $10 billion data center in Louisiana. That's not suspicious at all. But this week, COSA received support from ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino and Elon Musk and Donald Trump Jr. They are all saying that we need to put kids first and we need to pass COSA. This week, a ton of parents who've lost children to social media harms gathered in DC to meet with lawmakers and tell them what's really going on, that big tech has gotten their claws into House leadership and convinced them that COSA is something that it's not. There are only a few days left in Congress to make COSA happen. We have until December 20th at midnight. And kids are literally dying while Speaker Mike Johnson spouts big tech narratives and lies about COSA. So we need to put pressure on him as parents. This is so important. Please call Speaker Mike Johnson's office at 202-225-2777. Leave him a voicemail. Tell him that we need to pass COSA because children are dying. And more generally, children are just being harmed by social media. Parents need help. We need help protecting our children online, and that is what COSA will do. That is it for this week on the Big Tech Gut Check here on Scrolling to Death. Thank you so much for investing your time and educating yourself on these important topics so that we can all work together to keep our kids safe. I will see you next week.